Well, hello there. This is week. What week is it? Week 17, book 17, and this week it is We by Yevgeny Zamyatin. Eugene Zamyatin is anglicized, so my Russian is, I've studied the alphabet a little bit, and I know a little bit of pronunciation when I really try, but not well. So, anyway, so we. Very similar in some respects to To Live, the book that I read 2 weeks ago, in the sense that it is written by someone living in a totalitarian state, and it is about that totalitarian state's treatment of people and life in that environment. But in this book, it's set in the far future in a sort of, glorified totalitarian state, not really the Soviet Union. And that is, this is a Soviet writer, Russian writer. This book was originally written in 1920, 1921, but was censored and banned in the Soviet Union and was smuggled out. And so it's got an interesting history as a text. And, okay, so if you've ever read 1984 or Brave New World, Orwell or Huxley, then you've got a sense of kind of where this is going. That you have a dystopian future, you have a totalitarian state, and the people are, in various ways, controlled, surveyed, and unable to really experience freedom. What's interesting here is this is told from what you might call the inside. The main character, his name is D503. He has no name, just a designation. None of the characters have a name, just a designation. D503. And life is what is called Taylorized. Now, if you're not familiar with Charles Taylor and Taylorization, think about Henry Ford and the interchangeable parts and how that revolutionized factory work, and think about that kind of mechanization in every aspect of life. Okay, that is the sort of thing that Taylor was about, like that application to everything in life. Well, here, of course, it's taken to an extent well beyond anything that ever existed in reality. Every aspect of life is controlled and monitored so that they live in the one state, and they're all there because of the benefactor. And there's a lot of commentary here about the one versus the many. And the beginning part of this book is called We because that's what it's about. We, the state. We, the one state. And the idea is that you lose your individuality in the state, and you are just seen as one small piece of this larger thing. So whatever it is that you're going through as an individual is not important. What's important is what the state is going through. So, for instance, you can't drink alcohol, you can't smoke, because your own happiness is not important. What's important is the health of the state. And if you, as an individual, become an alcoholic, if you, as an individual, get high and enjoy those kinds of things, then that, from this point of view, disrupts the harmony and the unity of the state, and so that can't happen. And okay, so there's some degree of parody and satire going on here of the kind of control mechanisms used in a totalitarian state. The idea of a control economy and those kind of things, very big in the Soviet Union, of course. And, the secret police and the censoring of ideas, very big in a totalitarian state. And in the Soviet Union, that was something that really became well known and crucial. You could not disagree with the state. And so that's what this is all about. This is, a critique of these ideas taken to their absurdist logical extreme. So that what is at the very end of this? What's the very end of this control? Okay, so we control what you eat, we control when you sleep, we control when you work. You have designated personal hours and designated walking hours. And everybody lives in glass houses so that everyone can spy on everyone else. So that's kind of like the surveillance state. It's panopticonism, a way of monitoring other people by what Foucault would call governmentality, which is internalized control mechanisms. So the state doesn't have to be there as much, but the state is in the form of the guardians, who are the secret police. But at the same time, you as an individual in this state have lost your unique individuality and instead are doing your duty for the state and for the one state, because the benefactor has shown you that this is the way. And that's exactly what Zamyatin is talking about here. But what's the furthest extreme? Sex and romance. That's the furthest extent. And in this case, in order to have sex, you have to get a pink ticket. And this pink ticket allows you can have. And apparently the way this works is to avoid any kind of jealousy, any kind of coupling, any of that kind of thing. You apply for a pink ticket for anybody you want. You get the pink ticket. You go to them. You hand them the pink ticket. And you basically schedule a time. So you have this personal time. And in this personal time, you're given permission to lower the blinds and do what you're going to do. And then you part ways. And it's just like a momentary contract. Apparently, the pink ticket itself is the concept of consent. Now, it has to be pointed out that this is very much a, I was going to say very much a male-dominated world. I'm not so sure that I agree with what I'm just about to say there. Maybe it's not, because the women also can take on other lovers, and they have the pink ticket as well, and they can be the initiators. But there does seem to be a bit of kind of there does seem to be a bit of a kind of masculinity to some of this, but that's okay. I'm not really sure where that critique goes here, because the whole point is this is obviously absurd, and what happens is the main character falls in love. He's got this woman who he is his designated partner, or his partner that he's developed something of a long-term relationship to, and unbeknownst to him, she has fallen in love with him. She is 090, I think, 090, but he is in love with I-330, who is a woman that he meets sort of unexpectedly. And she smokes and she drinks alcohol, and she goes beyond the green wall, which is the city is contained by this green wall, and outside the green wall nobody goes, so they stay on the green wall. And she likes to go to the ancient house, which is the only house with walls and windows, where she likes privacy, and there's a way down inside there that goes outside to what's outside the green wall, and she's part of this underground cell called MEPHI. Mephi, maybe? Not sure, but Mephi. And yeah. And the reason why she's interested in this main character seems to be because this main character is the main engineer of the Integral, which is a interstellar spaceship that is being built, and he is the main builder of this. And she wants to sabotage it. She wants to steal it. It's not 100% clear. Her main goal, and Mephi's main goal, is to destroy the one state, to return freedom. And the main character, like I said, this is told kind of from the inside. So the main character starts off thinking that individuality and imagination and freedom are harmful. That freedom is a harmful thing, not a good thing. That, control is what you want, not freedom. And through being in love with her, this breaks down all of his boundaries, and he winds up becoming an enemy of the state. And they run around and do various things. He gets pregnant because she wants to get pregnant, but he's not supposed to because she isn't allowed to have kids. And then at the end, the very end of the book, just like in The Clockwork Orange, which this has some resemblances to, just like some of these other kind of dystopian novels, he is captured by the Guardians, by the secret police, basically, and taken into a room and has his memory basically wiped. Well, not his memory, excuse me. His will and his freedom and his desires wiped. His, quote, soul, as the book calls it, removed. And he's back at the beginning again, where he is interested in fulfilling his duty to the one state. And he tells everything, he reveals everything to the great benefactor about Mephi and all this. And the book ends with this really kind of disturbing scene where he's watching his lover, I-330, and he's got no feelings for her whatsoever. Those have been removed from him. And he's watching as she is basically being tortured by, she gets this glass bell jar put over her head, and all the air is sucked out of it, and she's about to die, and they stop it and bring her back to life, and then they do it again, and then they do it again. And this torture is what they're trying to use to get her to spill all she knows about Mephi, and she won't spill. That's how it ends. And it's, but will the one state survive? Will Mephi survive? Don't know, because there's a lot of disruption that happens prior to this dystopian scene at the end. Mephi does make quite a bit of strides towards disrupting the harmony of the one state. So, very, very interesting book. A precursor, obviously, to some later books, and a chilling and disturbing book dealing with, the kinds of things that an authoritarian or dictatorial leader wants to do, and a real warning about stability versus freedom, and the importance of, having those kinds of personal moments. And that's the interesting thing here to me, is that, as attractive sometimes as a Marxist or socialist view can be, this becomes the problem, is this controlled economy, this sort of, very mechanical, scientific way of trying to mold people. Is this what it ultimately leads to? Is this absurdity where it goes? That's the question that Zamyatin asks and doesn't answer, because it's a hard answer. And of course, this is his only novel, and I'm not familiar with the rest of his work, so I wouldn't know if he addressed this elsewhere.